Welcome to episode 18 of season 3. If you just joined, this is Maria at Maria the Arcane on Instagram, and I'm joined by the lovely Robin at A Tired Witch on Instagram. Be sure to stick around at the end to see what's coming next week.
Yes.
And I do apologize for our main segment. I was really, really sick when we re-recorded it. So
yeah, that was pretty messed up of you, actually. And I think that you weren't thinking of the listeners when you got sick. I'm really glad you apologized.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we also have a special guest in this episode.
Yeah, we do.
We have our Mabon drinking game today. So our main segment does have a special guest, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've just joined us, every single week we talk about upcoming lunar phases and how we can utilize them in our magical practice. Just as a reminder, these are not a personal check-in with your own zodiac sign and any kind of like prediction based off of that. This is simply how we can utilize the current lunar phase magically, if you so choose. So that being said, on October 9th, we have the Aries full moon. And I know Maria's going to say, so you don't have to say it. She's going to go, oh, it's October and the Aries full moon. I think it's the best one.
Yeah.
Aries.
Look, I can't help it that Aries full moons are the best moons. I mean,
somebody break this girl's arm because she is just really in pain to have to say it.
Look, it's been a rough month. I deserve this.
So actually, that very specifically with the rough month, it also marks the end of retrograde. Oh. So I mean, chef's kiss. This particular full moon is a really, really good time to focus on your wellness and health routines or anything that you have been kind of lacking in that department. So perhaps, things have been a little crazy lately. And this is a really good time to kind of kickstart any kind of wellness routine that, I don't know, might be bettering yourself. And a wellness routine, just for the record, for anybody listening who might be like, ew, Robin's promoting like diet culture or fitness culture. I'm not. A wellness routine might be simply, have you been lacking drinking your water? Maybe we get in the routine of, having an appropriate amount of water ounces a day. Something to consider might be that you need to focus on maybe bringing meditation into your life or focusing on your sleep schedule. Simultaneously, Aries full moons are really good, like passion, fire full moons. And so this is also a really good time to do a kind of wellness that comes in the form of romantic relationships. So perhaps, if things with your partner have been, wanting more, this might be a good time to kind of spice up the relationship and simultaneously do any kind of magic that might be very good to utilize in like sex magic or similar. Go a couple episodes back if you would like to know about our thoughts on sex magic, but this would be a really good time to utilize that as well. So just some things to consider.
But
Think of Maria while you're doing it.
I always equate like Aries full moons with the Emperor in tarot because they are connected.
Yeah.
So like domination spells, like confidence spells, and like anything you need a little oomph behind. Like let's say you're lacking confidence towards something.
There was just a bug on my face.
Oh, no. I was like, oh my gosh, what I'm saying is so exciting.
I mean, it is very exciting that there was a bug on my face. So,
but like with the Emperor, it's like, think about work. Like, are you asserting yourself a lot at work? And if you're not, maybe it's time to like wear something red to work and do a little glamour magic or even like some sex magic the night before to help you step in your power at work. Like, do you need to set some boundaries at work? Is your boss like not giving you overtime and is like illegally overworking you? Maybe it's time to be like, tell them to shut it.
Maria's getting into the legal parts of it.
I say. Well, that's self-care too, right?
Yes, it is. That is self-care too. That is
Telling
very
your
true.
boss to shove it with the help of HR, of course. Of course.
Wellness comes in many forms. Namaste.
So, if you just started listening to us, every podcast we talk about a random tarot card. We go over the universal meanings and then our own interpretations of the cards. Hearing other people's opinions helps beginners form their own opinions, or even those that have been practicing a while expand their views on other meanings. Okay, so this week we're going to be talking about the Two of Wands reversed. On this card, when upright, you will see someone standing on top of a tower overlooking a body of water, which is the direction they are facing. They are gazing at both the water and the globe they have in one of their hands. And the other hand is a wand. The other wand is behind our explorer on the same tower. Behind this part in the tower, behind the person and the tower, we see like a lush greenscape. The universal keywords to this card, when reversed, are lack of planning, fear of change, and playing it safe. When this card comes up reversed, for me, it can show like a few things. But most importantly, it always almost shows that someone is stuck in the past and their present comfort zones. That even though we have outgrown our current space, our current growth, our current passions, we are struggling to move forward with like something new. It could be fear of failure, not knowing where to start, or even just like the overwhelming feeling of being faced with the unknown. Whatever the case, this hesitancy to like move forward is keeping us stagnant and at times, sometimes ignorant. What I mean by this is that sometimes this card can show a closed worldview, like being unwilling to open up to struggles of other people, not wanting to ruin your like facade of like a perfect life, like think conservatives, but like our, our comfort zones can become such a toxic place, not only for ourselves, but even for like our communities. And sometimes though, when this card is reversed in a positive spot, it can show sometimes that that it's not ready. It's not exactly time to move forward. You should still keep like accumulating the current growth you've worked towards, but that's only if it's in a positive spot in a reading. So please do not read this card in a positive manner if it's not in a positive spot. So how do you view this card, Robin, dear?
So, we talk about things like the indecision and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I often see this card come up in love readings. I know, no surprise. But I often see this card come up in love readings where you are faced with the decision of like letting somebody go or between two different options. And instead of, shitting it to get off the pot, you are stood there kind of frozen with this choice and refusing to make any. It's kind of like when, maybe this is just because I have anxiety, so let me know if you can relate. But
can't relate.
It's kind of like you have like a huge list of tasks to do and you're super overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. So you just lay down in bed and hope it fixes itself. I don't know if you ever do that, but that's this card. If this card was like an action, it is like just kind of seeing all these two options. It's specifically about two options that you have to decide between and you just don't want to. So you just don't, and you have no forward movement. And it's kind of like you said, being stuck in the past, refusing to progress, that sort of thing. So it's just, to me, it's never good. I don't see it ever in a positive position, other than the position of knowing that we have to finally make this choice, and that choice itself becomes positive, right? Because we're finally moving on, but the actual, I don't know, call out is never very good.
Well, how would you read this card if it was like, let's say, in a position of like how you have grown?
Oh, if it was something how you've grown, it's being able to have that kind of progress of indecision. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like if somebody were constantly like not wanting to make choices, if this was in a position of like how you've grown, it would be, you know, your old self refused to make these choices and it was overwhelming. And so you had just this overwhelming indecision and you're no longer doing that. You're better at making assertive discernments and I don't know, choices. Which is a positive, I guess. I guess you could see that as a positive. Yeah.
Very good. Very
Jeez
good.
Louise.
But I can't relate anxiety, not being on top of things. Like, I don't know about you, but all of my placements are Virgo, Capricorn. Like, I'm on top of my stuff.
Here's the thing. I really am just trying to relate with the audience. It's not because I personally struggle with chronic anxiety disorder. You couldn't be me. I actually am so good at making decisions and I definitely don't get overwhelmed. And my best friend definitely didn't tell me the other day, asked me why I was planning something out that's 10 months away, like it's happening tomorrow. And I was like, you need to relax. I was like, why don't you worry about yourself? Okay.
And it isn't like we bonded over like anxiety and
yeah, that's definitely not me at all. So no. I'm just trying to relate with our audience. That's all. If it wasn't obvious, that was all sarcasm. Hello, everyone. Today is the Autumnal Equinox. Well, not today. Yesterday was, but we're going to be celebrating this like it is the Autumnal Equinox, and therefore it is another drinking game. Today we are joined by...
One second. That I'm actually going to be celebrating it next week anyways, so if I'm not celebrating it, no one else is celebrating it either. So
it's just you.
Yeah.
It's literally just you.
I'm making our followers celebrate it when I will be celebrating it.
Oh, I love that. like a belated celebration for the community. So if you are like Maria and dying of polio, because Maria has polio, guys, it's really sad. Everyone light her polio candle. Very sad. Do you hear it? It's coming. Here comes the polio, everyone. It's very sad. We're gonna lose her. Don't worry though. I think I can flag on without her.
Oh,
it's my burden to bear.
How it is. I'm gonna haunt
Don't worry.
your ass.
I'm gonna get a cardboard cut out of you right here, but I'm gonna put you in a wheelchair like Roosevelt. It'll be good. So yeah, we're doing our Equinox drinking game, and we are joined today by Amanda of Pretty Effin' Spooky. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Amanda from Pretty Effin' Spooky. I am super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about you and the content that you make?
Yeah, I am a paranormal investigator based out of Spokane, Washington. I've been investigating for 14 plus years now, but I've been online since 2019 as Pretty Effin' Spooky, where I share my adventures solo paranormal investigating and more recently paranormal research and all sorts of weird stuff. Based
I didn't realize you do it solo.
What?
I don't know. I didn't realize that you do it solo. I don't know why I didn't realize that, but I didn't.
I'm very solo. Yes. By choice. I used to be on a team back in 2008, back when being on ghost hunting teams was very, very popular. And that's how I got my start. But now I'm solo. Haven't really quite found the group that I'm meant to be with yet. So, and I am an Aries sun and Sagittarius rising. So I am very impatient and I don't wait for anyone, and I'll just do things. And it doesn't matter if no one else will do them with me. Yeah.
Well, Maria, would you like to tell everyone what our drinking game is going to be today?
Sure, because I invented it.
She did. She's not kind.
I know. And I'm pretty proud of it. And I think it should become a thing. And maybe I should post about it on social media. But anyways.
Yeah. You know what? Last time we did a drinking game, it was requested that we start sharing the drinking game. Like, with the episode, so I'll do that. I'll post it with it.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so it's ghost haunting drinking game. So we're going to talk about like little
it's like
hauntings.
Never Have I Ever, right?
Yeah, a little bit. But instead it's just a general topic.
Perfect.
Cool.
I love it. So for this game, we're going to be obviously reading off these amazing prompts that Maria had. And if you have had this happen, you have to take a drink and then you have to tell the story. So it'll be very good. Maria's not drinking. Amanda, are you drinking?
I can't tell a lie. I'm drinking a soda. I'm drinking a soda, but I also have a special other thing with me. I'm also using.
These ladies.
That sounded worse than it actually is.
These ladies are partaking in spicy cabbage. It's very messed up. I personally am a good God-fearing Christian woman, and so that's why I've got my Kirkland Select hard seltzer.
I'm from Washington, so yes, I'll be partaking in the devil's cabbage.
And I'm taking South Carolina's legal kind, so.
Well, and mine's legal too, FYI.
And yet, it's still a federal crime. So I think we should arrest both of them on the spot.
I'm also drinking a Coca-Cola Zero. So
love that for you. I love Coke really Zero.
Excited.
Yeah, and I have a water to go along with my cold, and I also have a coffee to keep my ass awake. So
nice.
You're amazing. A real trooper.
So we have one drink for one person drinking for the drinking game.
This is gonna highlight my best self. So
Amanda and I will just laugh the entire time, and you're gonna be talking just like what's happening.
I'd like to take a moment to shout out my haters that send me really nice messages saying how I talk over everyone. I know. And welcome to this episode. Okay, get over it. Get over it. I'm drinking now, so and I'm the only one. So R.I.P. to you. Do you want to read our first question, Em, or prompt, I should say?
Sure. If you have ever dealt with a poltergeist, take a drink and tell your story.
I don't think I have actually.
I haven't.
I feel like no, I haven't. Okay. I was trying to trying to stretch some situations, but I wouldn't call it a poltergeist. I've had some things move around that were ghostly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I've had things, specifically in this apartment that I live in, we'll have things kick up every now and then, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. And things will one thing will fall off a shelf, but everything else stays there. That kind of stuff. And that's the closest thing I could think to poltergeist. Actually.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously definitely had things move as well, but I've definitely full on poltergeist.
Yeah, all your cabinets are open and you're.
God, I wish that's my dream. I daydream about that having something
that's so
that
funny.
Happen.
You know what? If that ever happens to me, I'll give you a ring.
See,
I'll have you come over.
I really like people's opinions about it because they say it's especially it happens in a lot of houses that have prepubescent children who are very angry and upset, and that they have magical powers, and they're the ones that are doing it.
See, I actually think that poltergeist activity. Well, I do think that poltergeist activity is more connected to the living than it is to any sort of invisible entity. I think it has more to do with people being in liminal phases or liminal phases in their life. Yeah. So I feel like poltergeist activity could happen to prepubescent kids, but also to somebody going through a divorce or somebody in a liminal spaces in time.
Yeah, I can definitely see the argument for that.
By the way, Amanda takes the most amazing videos that show liminal spaces, and they're so haunting and so amazing. So
thank you. I actually was just thinking I need to do more of them, and I'm excited to, as the weather is getting spookier, I am excited to start going out. I become a hermit in the summer because the heat is
same.
Yeah, same.
But now I'm coming out. I'm I don't know. I'm reinvigorated. So yeah, thank you. I love taking videos and photos of liminal spaces. I think it's so cool.
They're very, very pretty. I just like all of your content, if I'm being really honest. It's all very beautiful. Like you have an eye for it.
Thank you. That means a lot. It's easy to get right for us, guys, but thanks, guys. We're all so cool.
That's true. That's true. Mostly Maria, if I'm being honest. Maria is very cool.
I'm very uncool.
You're probably the coolest person I've ever met in my life.
Oh, that's
why you have polio now.
That's really interesting.
You're too cool and you need to be humbled by polio.
You need to be humbled. Like, God really gives his toughest challenges to his strongest players.
I just to anyone who's like listening, the reason why Robin keeps on bringing polio up is because
polio.
The virus that me and my family has, like the most severe reaction is like polio-like symptoms. So
she doesn't actually have polio.
Wonderful. No,
she's not a Victorian child.
It's coming back. Did you hear? There's like 3 cases in New York.
I did not know that, but that's a topic I can go on another day as a parent, and I'm not touching that. I see what you're doing, and I'm not touching it. All right. The next question is: if you have ever dealt with a child's ghost, take a drink and tell your story.
Ooh.
Is that everybody?
Wait, are they going to see the video of this too?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know who I'm making.
I mean, we've also got it just audio as well. So, like, for people who aren't listening, everybody drink. Amanda, do you want to go first? You have to tell your story.
Yeah. So, child ghost. The most recent that I can recall was actually at the Melange Inn in North Carolina. And there was some activity, like there was like a shadow that was kind of darting around that was like child-sized. But most importantly, during an Estes session, which, by the way, since I'm a solo investigator, on investigations, I'll often do the Estes method with somebody on Zoom or on Instagram Live or whatever, like virtually, so that I can have somebody ask me questions. And while I was doing that, I saw in my mind a little boy. I was in front of a table that had like a cloth that went down to the floor, and I saw a boy in my mind lift up from underneath the table and look at me with this like maniacal grin. And it was so scary in my head. I had to stop, but I felt like there was a child ghost there. And that doesn't like happen very often for me on investigations. Even like the famous locations that claim to have like their resident child ghost, I typically don't run into anything. I feel like as a child, but I felt like that was, or at least it was presenting as a child, which is really creepy to think about. Like if it wasn't, but it wanted to look like it. I don't know.
Right. Well, my most recent one was actually a couple years ago, and I might have talked about this on the podcast already. The little girl in the house.
So go ahead. So
I don't know if you know this about me, Amanda. We've talked about it a few times on the pod. I see dead people. Hello, I am that little boy from The Sixth Sense. Anyway,
I'm obsessed with that. Okay, I love that. Well, I don't.
You can stop if you ever want.
Please.
But sometimes I get these kind of ghost wanderers that just show up, no explanation, and then they just leave. Like they're, just having a little wander. They're not attached to anything. And at least not to my knowledge. And there was this little girl, this was like 2 years ago, that just showed up in the middle of the night in my house. She had to be like 6 or 7. She was wearing a My Little Pony, like from the 90s, those like long fleece gowns. Do you know the ones I'm talking about?
Yes.
And she had a My Little Pony one on, and I know it was the 90s because it was the old style of My Little Pony. Maybe the late 80s, but it was that, you know what I mean? The more kind of soft My Little Pony, not very anime-esque. And she just would stare at me, and this went on for like 3 nights. She was just there staring at me, and like you could tell that there was somebody in the house in the daytime, but she wasn't showing herself. And it freaked me out so bad. I told Maria about it. I was like, just leave. What do you want? And then she just left. Like one day, it was like 2, 3, maybe 4 days of her just being there. And then one day she just left. And it was terrifying because she just would stand literally like right here. Because I live in a tiny home, so my bed is like 10 feet that way. And she stood just like right here the whole night, just staring at me. And like, I didn't know what she wanted. Like, I'm like, girly pop, like, let's get to getting. What do you want?
Yeah. I used to have I had sleep paralysis for a really long time, for about like a decade, where I was having it really, really often. And it stopped a couple of years ago, but it started getting to the point where in my sleep paralysis, I would see, similar to that, where I would like see somebody standing there at night, and I wasn't totally paralyzed, but like it was in that between state of like asleep and awake. And that's the closest thing I've had to like seeing dead people. But at the same time, I wouldn't feel confident enough to say it was dead people. I have no idea what if it was a hallucination or what. And then occasionally I'll get impressions, like I was talking about the boy that I saw in my head lifting up the thing, and it's like, that happens sometimes, but I have to have myself in like the perfect spot mentally to be able to tap into that. But I wouldn't say that I am anywhere near just like, I see dead people. I wish I did, but also that sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, like, in a general sense, things like that don't really scare me. They did when I was a kid, of course. But it was just like, because she like wouldn't say anything, she wouldn't do anything. Like, and she wasn't like a picture. She wasn't like frozen or anything. Do you know what I mean? It was like, she wasn't like, it wasn't like a dream kind of like picture situation. And it was so like detailed and specific. I remember every detail of like her hair, her face, everything, like still even now. And it scared the shit out of me.
Did she try to communicate?
I didn't know what she wanted. Nope. Like, and I tried talking to her. Yeah. Like, cause like usually I can get something out of them. Even if they don't speak, there's still like, movement to kind of like suggest something. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Even if that movement is simply that they're kind of like an imprint and they're just kind of playing out a scenario. But literally I got nothing out of her. And I tried talking to her. I tried like being like, what do you want? All that. And it was so scary. And then she never came back.
That's scary.
Yeah. What about you, Maria?
Okay, so I think I've already told my most recent one on the podcast before, but it was when we were at the mall, my family and I, and we were like the only people in the store.
I forgot about this.
The only people in the store. And I kind of walked away from my family for a little bit to go look at like these cute little baby onesies, even though I don't have a baby, but they were really cute.
Because I have a baby. She was like, check this
actually,
out.
no, I was texting you at the time and telling you how
literally
cute you were.
Because you found like a Totoro like onesie or something like that, and you were like, look at this.
Yeah, but so I was turned around and looking at that, and then like my peripheral vision, like I saw something move behind me and said "Mama," and that's what like my little one calls me. And I turn around to like be like yes, and there's no one there. My family's still clear across the store, and I'm like, okay. But it was funny when I turned around, like it just went, like there was no energy there, nothing, it was gone. So that was scary.
And you said it was in a department store?
Yeah.
Dude, I think department stores for some reason are scary. Like,
I agree.
They feel weird, and especially older department stores. I don't know, like Target, no, but like maybe an older Kohl's or like
a mall.
Especially like Sears, JCPenney, that kind of stuff. Ugh.
Do you guys remember Mervyn's?
Yeah, I think
Am I dating myself?
I think so.
Like maybe it was just a West Coast saying Mervyn's. It was like a knockoff JCPenney.
Oh, yeah. We had one when I lived in Utah. So yeah.
I don't know that. Yeah. I'm from Montana originally.
One day they just disappeared. They shut down, and the one in my hometown turned into a Forever 21.
Weird.
Dude, I wish my goal, that made it sound like it's my singular goal in life, but I would love to investigate, like paranormal investigate in a closed department store, like a totally empty, large department store. I think it would be so weird. I don't think it would be haunted by anything.
The energy,
feel like it
though.
would be because like it seems like the quiet areas, you know, it's always seems like paranormal activity happens like in the more quieter areas, not like where there's a lot of people, but in those like very quiet corners, especially now in days, and like, you know, Daisy Pennies and stuff. But there are spirits just hanging around back there. Like you can feel them.
Yeah. Well, and
see them.
I'm a firm believer that not all spirits are connected to the location that they are at.
Or it could have been like a routine. I mean? Like they were going shopping, you know.
Exactly. And by that I mean, like, I know that it's I believe a common misconception that ghosts hang out where they died or where they lived or something like that. But like
they go wherever they want.
Yeah, like a really good example is that when I was a child, there was a guy who used to walk our hallways at nighttime, and my house is a brand new house, like with no issues. You know what I mean? There was like it was the land it was on was like literally orchards before that, so it's not like somebody could have like buried a body there and nobody would have known, like, you know what I mean?
But he was probably walking the orchards.
Probably, exactly. And
I totally agree.
Yeah, no, like
I just like we could get into like the different types of ghosts and stuff like that.
I know, yeah. Well, I don't know. I won't like make this go on like a huge tangent, but I don't know if you guys saw a while back I released like the paranormal emotive touch point, which is something I wrote about basically the theory that like there are some soft spots in the universe that present in strange emotions, like basically just making you feel a little weird, and that they're presenting these strange emotions to you to kind of tip you off to the fact that this spot in the universe can give you like a thinner veil or like a easier reach to the other side. So not necessarily haunted by any intelligent or any kind of entity, but just like a weird amalgamation of energy that then you can use to contact whatever kind of entity or spirit or whatever that you want. So that's kind of what I feel like for the department store. But sorry, shameless plug. Something I
but like,
I wrote recently.
I think people might be very interested in reading that, so I think it's appropriate.
I am.
Thank you.
Do you want to read the next cue, Maria?
Sure. So, if you have ever been to a historical place and dealt with a ghost, take a drink and tell your story.
What is our definition of historical?
Of historical significance, you know, like important buildings.
I'm gonna take a drink, but I'll have to explain. Also, I have to open this up.
Here comes the drink sound.
Okay. Yeah, I muted myself. Thank you very much.
I think it would have been refreshing to hear the pop of seltzer.
Yeah, and then my husband, who edits the podcast, will be like, "I hate you." That was so loud in my ear, and I wasn't expecting that. You guys go first, and then I will explain.
I'll let you go first, Amanda.
Okay. Historically significant location that we've had a paranormal experience at. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have been to some of the like more popular ghost hunting locations. So like Lizzie Borden is one that comes to mind. And Lizzie Borden is one online that a lot of people have watched my experience at Lizzie Borden, because it was where I got the shit scared out of me really, really bad. And that has happened only twice in investigating period for me, where I've just been like scared out of my mind. But I spent the night at Lizzie Borden house alone. Like the whole house was empty. And I just heard somebody walking around all night. And similar to Orchard Man that Robin was talking about, like just like going back and forth, it was not like that. And I, for some reason, had the impression or like had the thought that this thing was just walking around me all night and just paying attention to me. And it was really, really, really scary. and that was at Lizzie Borden House. So, but not everyone has had that same experience at Lizzie Borden House. And also, I'm not entirely convinced that what I was experiencing even had anything to do with the Lizzie Borden story. But that's like really complex. I had a weird day that day. I had been to the Bridgewater Triangle the same day, and I had been to the Conjuring House the night before, which Conjuring House is but yeah, Lizzie Borden House is fun.
So what about you, Maria?
So, you know, I lived like half my life in Germany. So we went to like museums, to castles and stuff all the time. And you would see stuff all the time in like the castles and like just wandering around. But you know, like how we say every time when we're talking about ghost stories, like most of the ghost stories happen like it's 2 seconds and it's done.
Yeah.
And that was like the majority of time going into these places. Like you'll see, you know, like someone dressed, you know, in the period in the past, and they're just standing and like doing their thing, and you know it's not an actor because you know no one else is pointing them out.
Cool.
But no, it's
so cool. So how old? Like what era what's the oldest ghost you think you've seen?
I don't know because I really don't.
No, that's fascinating.
Like, you know, definitely like before like 1700s, I guess.
Yeah, that's so cool.
But you would just see them for like a second and then they're gone. Like I never had like a really big thing happen at historical places, but just little instances.
Right. Well, the only, like, I've been to a lot of historical places and, like, especially as a kid growing up, and I struggle with separating sometimes the living from the dead, unless they're, like, really obviously, like, in a bonnet, and you're like, wait a second, don't think you decided to wear that out of the house this morning. Which has actually been a huge contributor to initially why we moved to the woods, because there aren't a bunch of people. It's easier to make discernments on things like that. Anyway, that's really off topic. But the building I used to live in, because I used to live in downtown San Francisco, and the building I used to live in was the Fox Theater Plaza, it was the Fox Theater, and then it was tore down, and then they built Fox Plaza, which was my apartment complex on top of it. And there's like a curse put on the land. It's actually really interesting. If you want to read about the Fox Plaza curse, we can get into that another day. So I don't remember who the guy is that cursed it. I believe he was like a descendant of Crowley or in a coven with Crowley. I don't remember the exact details, so don't quote me on that. But this was in like the 30s that this happened, and it was like a theater house and they cursed it. And it's actually really interesting because there's never been a successful apartment management that has ever been in that building. And they've got a fully, you know, they're like, vacancies didn't happen very often. So it was always really interesting. In the 4 years I lived there, we had 7 different management companies. So like, it gives some validity, I guess, to the rumor of the curse, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, because I was on that building or in that building, and there's this like history behind it, etc., and because I see dead people, I would see things like that all the time in my apartment, and that just happened to be on the same spot as a cursed theater.
Wow. When you see ghosts, can you? Well, I guess sometimes you're communicating with them. So then how often are you seeing ghosts that are related to somewhere that you're at or something that's happening versus what you think are spirits knowing you can see them and them coming to you to visit you?
Oh, like...
I'd say for me, it's a 50-50 split probably. And like, since living here, we've lived here in the woods now for 6 years. I really don't see ghosts that often anymore. Because we're on such a large plot of land. I believe at least like the ghosts that I would see when I still lived in the city, I don't think they were per se there to see me. I think they were just kind of perhaps traveling through, except for a couple of, you know, specific instances. And so I feel like they were traveling through for whatever reason, but it wasn't necessarily to see me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I've always wondered about how that works for some people. 'Cause, you know, some like mediums or whatever, they reach out and find somebody, but then some people,
I'm not that person.
No, but then some people,
I wish I had that ability. That would be amazing.
And then sometimes I feel like, so then I'm relating it also to my sleep paralysis experiences, where I felt like things were coming to me in that period of like, in that kind of thinner veil moment or whatever. Yeah. Because I saw some people that didn't make any sense contextually with where I was living or anything. And then there's like what you're talking about too, where it's like the spirits are passing through for whatever reason, or maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a telephone system or something where they're like, hey, this chick can see us, you know, another one comes, who knows? It's fun to think about it.
Yeah, it's just an interesting thing. And it's, you know, I know there's people like Tyler Henry, for example, that can reach out and talk to your Nana. And like, don't get me wrong, I definitely have had situations where I felt like I could tap into somebody specifically, but it has been a very like lucky chance, not something that I consider a skill by any means. At all.
I do it for like my guided readings where I meditate and do it, and I reach out and I try to get like whenever when I do a tarot reading, like I always ask my clients' guides to join me along with mine.
Sure, yeah.
Do you think? Sorry, I'm like interviewing you guys now. I probably, but I'm so fascinated by this because I exist so much, and I have kind of found a place on the line between the paranormal community and the spiritual community. And I'm working on that right now to, I don't know, bring in some duality with that, but like
bridge the gap.
Yeah, exactly. And, but I really, for so long, since like 2008, even though I've had my own childhood experiences, I have my own sensitivities and my own thing going on. Mostly I've approached the paranormal like a traditional ghost hunter, you know, which is just like experience based. It's like putting myself in situations to see what happens to me, but not so much internal, like communicating with spirits happening at all until recently. Recently in the last couple of years, I've dug a lot deeper into my own spiritual practice, which, as you guys I'm sure know, opens up things. Like opens up a gate for that, so it's changing now. But anyway, I find that stuff so fascinating. And even talking about these ghost stories too, they're slightly different in the way that you guys are like communicating with spirits. And I'm like, well, I was at this spooky place and this thing happened, it's interesting to hear the differences.
I feel like, let's say we're all in the exact same building, right? And something spooky is happening. I personally feel like we're all communicating with the same, quote, spirit entity, whatever. It's just, maybe we speak different languages. You know what I mean? It's like, the ghost speaks Mandarin and we're over here, speaking whatever other like different worldly languages. And we're all trying to communicate with the person who speaks Mandarin that we don't speak Mandarin. And we're just kind of trying to bridge that communal gap. And it just kind of translates in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I know someone, the only way that they know spirits are nearby is by the, scent. So they just use smell.
Yeah. Well,
I have that problem as well, the scent problem. I could smell my grandma one night and I was convinced she died and I bolted it because she lives like 10 miles away. I bolted to her house. I was freaking out. I was at her house. It's like 11 o'clock at night. She's in her 80s. I'm banging on the front door being like, let me in, like trying to find a key. She was fine. I don't know what that was. That was some sort of like either auditory hallucination or not auditory, olfactory hallucination, or somebody's Nana wears the same perfume as my Nana and she was coming to visit, but I was so convinced it was her.
Yeah. See, I smell my grandma all the time. Like, because she wore a specific perfume.
She's also actually dead.
Yeah. That, and she's always in my house. But she always wore Angel, the perfume, which I don't have. So I smell it all the time.
Oh,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
I have a very strong sense of like spiritual smell, super sniffer here. And but mine, in a lot of my spiritual gifts I'm finding are related to the living and not to the dead. Like it's more like I'll smell something I'll be talking to my friend and I'll be like, why do I smell apples? And they're like, oh, I'm baking an apple pie, you know, like, or like, and I'm on the phone with them, whatever, like stuff like that. And that's been weird too, because I've been so fanatical about ghosts for so long. I just love the spookiness and the haunted locations and all that. Like, I love ghost hunting, but like, I'm realizing that I think what I'm meant to be doing spiritually, or what I'm more gifted at, is actually having to do with the living, which has been a weird thing to kind of weave through. But
that's interesting. Like, especially if you're already like have that predisposition to like wanting, at least having the desire to be connected to the dead. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Like I said, I wish I was seeing ghosts all the time. I wish ghost stuff was happening all the time, but it does not happen all that often for me. Not as often as you would think, considering I'm doing it.
Yeah,
so
especially because I feel like the more you look in, it looks back. So
again, if you would like to
it's looking back in
anytime.
Yeah. Whatever's looking back at me is waiting until I'm like at home, and like, I don't know. When you go out to ghost hunting locations, it's different, and I just, it doesn't present itself there. But then I'll be at home, and they're like, I'm gonna give you like craziest dream of your life, you know? I don't know.
That's actually the majority of my experiences are just at home.
That's really common. Yeah,
way more at home than it's just because I think it's what we always talk about is that you're settled in at home, you're relaxed, so your mind's kind of more open to that than when
you
you're
haven't
out.
In my opinion, at least, if you haven't done some sort of like cleansing after you get home, like, and I don't mean like taking a shower, I mean like full on spiritual cleansing. That energy can come home with you, and you're waking up and there's a dead chick at the end of your bed, and you're like, my little pony's actually not that good. Go home.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like adrenaline too sometimes masks more significant paranormal experiences too. When you're in ghost hunting situations and you're high on adrenaline and you're just running around screaming, I feel like it on the inside it blocks a little bit, or at least for me. I guess that's a personal opinion, but
no, I would definitely agree with that. I can definitely see how that might be, so that makes sense.
I didn't hear any of that because I was coughing, but it's fine. I agree too.
She's got the polio, guys.
You're like, yes, I absolutely.
All right, our next question, to get back on track to this, we're definitely not going to be able to get through all these questions.
It's
but
okay.
We'll do our best. If you have ever been haunted in a hotel room, take a drink and tell your story.
What if it's just outed me as being like what if I just didn't drink for anything? That's not funny. I've never experienced a ghost in my life.
That just means you experience ghosts differently. It's a fun.
We're sitting here going, we do not know why we actually invited her here. This is so embarrassing.
Like, I don't know. No. For anyone not watching, I did take a drink. I do have an experience at a hotel.
I think she's lying, actually, everybody. Which one of you guys wants to go first?
Maria, you go.
Okay, so I think I've already said this one on the pod before, but we were in Savannah and we were staying at one of the hotels. I forgot what the hotel name was. Oh, it's like East Bay or something like that. I don't know. But it was a beautiful hotel, extremely gorgeous. And we were staying on the upper floor, which has like all the old exposed brick around it and stuff. And okay, but anyways, me and my wife, we went to sleep after being out all night, and I had woken up probably around 3, of course, but and I just hear the doorknob, like someone shaking it and like trying to open up the door, but it's an old place, so like there was probably that much of allowance between the door and the floor, so I could see out into the hallway a little bit, and there was the lights are on, there's no feet, and you know, I'm kind of like freaking out, what if someone's trying to get into the room? So I hurry up, I look over into the little door look through thing, and nothing's there. Nothing's there. Oh, and I forgot to mention, like 5 feet before I get to the door, it stops.
No, ma'am. No.
That's scary.
No.
It just let itself in at that point. Like, actually,
I was like, that was really weird. So, like, of course, I'm like wide awake now. So I was like looking at my phone, looking at reviews, and there's like at least 10 reviews that mention the same thing happen. And apparently, I forgot what they said.
This is why you always type in a hotel and you write haunted at the end of it.
I didn't mind it. I thought it was neat. Okay, like I'm fine.
Fuck off. I'm trying to sleep. But listen, if I am paying upwards of $300-$400 a night,
have a ghost experience.
Yeah.
No, I want to get a restful R&R. Okay, I want to be in their luxury sheets and I want to sleep like a baby. That's what I want. Oh my gosh. What about you, Amanda? What was yours?
So most recent, last year I stayed at this place called the Panama Hotel in Seattle. And it's really, really old hotel. And in its basement, actually, it has the last Japanese bathhouse, original Japanese bathhouse in America. It's really neat. The history is so great. The hotel is amazing, and it's really inexpensive to stay there. But anyway, I had stayed there once before. I didn't have an experience the last time I stayed, but this time I stayed last spring. I got home. I got to my hotel pretty late. I kind of did some ghost hunting a little bit. I did it for Instagram. Nothing really happened. And then I decided to go to bed. And when I went to bed, the bed in this room had a metal bed frame that was like a metal tube. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like,
yeah.
Hollow.
Yeah. Like the brass ones.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And the room is just super old. But anyway, I'm laying on my stomach, asleep, and I get woken up in the middle of the night to somebody knocking on the bed frame by my head, like knock, 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 knock. And I like kind of like wake up, but I don't even really open my eyes. I'm just like, what is going on? And then I heard somebody talking in my ear but it sounded like an old radio. Like it sounded like somebody was talking, but the voice was coming out of like a 1950s radio. It was like, I don't do
I've had that happen to me before too.
Really?
Like it's the craziest thing. Yeah.
It was really weird. I was like, I've never experienced that before. And I wasn't even scared. I was just like, what is going on? Because also I had that quick moment where you're like, is somebody in my room and they're playing the radio? And like, why are they not? Like, I didn't think it was a ghost at first. But then once I came to after I heard that, I realized like, it's the middle of the night. Nobody's in my room. Right. That was really weird. So, yeah.
That is weird.
Yeah, I've never heard of someone else experiencing that.
That's just the only time I've ever have, and I certainly don't have a
clairaudience or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Clear that. But yeah, I've never had that happen before. But yeah, it was very weird.
That's nuts. The Mark Spencer Hotel in Portland is the most haunted hotel I've ever been into in my entire life. It's not listed as one, okay? But it was so haunted that my husband and a friend of ours that was staying with us, we had like one of those business suites where it has like 2 bedrooms. Do you know what I'm talking about? So our friend was in one room, we were in another room.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, the fuck is going on in this place? And if you know anything about my husband, he's like, I don't believe in ghosts. Ghosts aren't real. Like, this man will have a ghost walk up to him, shake him, and be like, I am dead. I am a ghost. And he'd be like, I didn't see anything. Actually, I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Like, he is not a ghost person. And so when he even was like, did you guys hear the footsteps in our room last night? It was like, okay, what the fuck? Like, so when we were there was a guy, just a shadowy figure at the end of our bedroom all night long. That just kind of kept pacing back and forth, and you could hear his footsteps. Like, you could audibly hear the footsteps, and they both were marked on it the next day. So it was like, it wasn't just me. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that was the same hotel that Dave, who pissed on my curtains, not a euphemism, broke into my hotel room. Do you remember that, Maria?
I do remember that.
This guy was drunk. He broke into our hotel room. He tried to pee on our curtains, quite literally. It was a whole thing. He didn't break it. He like banged on the door and like, anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm like getting way off topic. But then I stayed there again when I went to Portland for my book signing with Temperance, like 2 years later. We stayed in that same hotel because Frank's job has like a deal with them. Mm-hmm. And we had another kind of like suite room thing. Temp had like her pull-out couch thing. We had like the main bedroom. And again, they're like, now that time I didn't see anybody. It was just like that feeling of somebody being like right there, and then you could hear the footsteps like all night long, like in the room and stuff like that. And we were on a different floor, we were in a different room, it was like a whole thing, and it was so bizarre. And I've never in my life stayed at a hotel where I've been in 2 totally different floors, different rooms, everything, and experienced something so similar both times. And I have Googled the Mark Spencer to be like, is this fucking place haunted? And you'll find like a couple of little like, you know, bloggy kind of posts about it, but it isn't like noted anywhere as this being like this massively haunted hotel. And it was terrifying.
You know what I bet is happening with why there's no reports on there? I bet the hotel management is deleting them. I have an experience with, I filmed a documentary the last couple of years out near Lake Crescent, and there's a Lake Crescent Lodge out there. And we know for a fact that multiple people have had experiences out there, but you can't find anything about it on their website because they're deleting them and they don't want anything.
It's just bizarro. And like, I get why they would want that to be, but like I said, that is the most haunted hotel I've ever been in, because it isn't the first hotel where I've like repeated a hotel, right? Like, you know, especially if you get a good deal, you might go to the same hotel 5 times if you go to a city. But it's the first time I've ever gone to a hotel more than once, had totally different rooms, and had the exact same experience. It was bizarre. It was so bizarre. But the difference being, the second time we went, I didn't see anything. I just heard the footsteps all over my freaking bedroom. So
footsteps all over the bedroom in a ghost way is so scary to me, because it just feels like they're just pacing and watching you. Like,
well, especially at night. At night, you're like, is it a ghost or is it someone breaking into my house?
And especially when you're in a hotel, it's like, did somebody like get a key and come into my room? Like, what's going on here? And it's so scary. Like, and it like really just on like a mundane level, it is scary. Like, you think somebody's in your room. Like,
I don't know about you guys, but when stuff like that happens too, and I'm like in bed, I become like the stillest I can be. Like, I stop breathing and I'm like, I'm not going to move. And I make sure like all my limbs are inside my blanket, and I'll like put my blanket as a little hood around my head so I can't see anything. But also, I mean, you're seeing ghosts over here, so I guess maybe you can't relate.
No, but I can relate, because it just because like I can see ghosts sometimes doesn't mean I can see them every time. Like, great example is the second time we were in the hotel. Like,
but it's so scary, it's terrifying,
scary. Well, do you want to do one more?
Yeah, we can do one more. Do you want to read it, or?
Yeah, I can. If you want me to.
Yeah, go pick.
Want me to pick one at random?
Yeah, do it.
Okay. Have you ever been touched by a ghost? Take a drink and tell your story.
Robin, you go first this time.
Oh gosh. Okay. I've been touched by ghosts like a lot of times, but the most notable time was when I had my first confirmation that the ghosts weren't in my head. And it was when my grandfather passed away, and we were at his wake. I might have told this story. We were at his wake.
It was a long time ago. So
we were at his wake, and I stayed at my grandma's house overnight with her, like in her bed. I was a kid. I was like 11 or 12, and I slept with her, and I got an ear infection, and he showed up and gave me medicine and like touched my leg, told me I was going to be okay. And fucking disappeared into whatever. And I was convinced that I dreamt it. But then the next morning, the ear medicine was next to the bed. And like, I'm a child, right? I don't know where to find this stuff. And my grandma went, "Oh, you had an earache. I thought you were just crying because of grandpa like dying. I'm so sorry. Where did you find that? Was it in the medicine cabinet?" And like that for me was like the first time that I was like, maybe I'm not imagining this. Like, and I was like a little kid, right? But yeah, it still gives me goosebumps to think about.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
How about you, Amanda?
So this is a long story, but I'm going to make it really short and fast. But, so the first time I tried a Ouija board was in like 2008 with a friend, and we did the whole thing. Like we did it as serious as we could. And during it, we contacted the ghost of this man. We got like all this information. At one point there was a fly flying around and like bothering us. And we were like, can you get rid of the fly? And then it flew into the flame of our candle and lit itself on fire, which that was crazy in itself, but that doesn't have to do with being touched by that ghost later. But, and it was just this whole thing. It was really, really influential. It was really crazy. And, so then we end the Ouija board session the way we're supposed to do it or whatever. And then I move on with my life. I end up moving away from Montana because that was back in Montana. I moved to Spokane. And when I moved to Spokane, or right before I moved to Spokane, I start having sleep paralysis, which I'm talking about sleep paralysis again, but this kind of kicked it off actually for me. So I start having sleep paralysis. I come to Spokane. I'm taking a nap one day on the couch at my old apartment. And at this point, I had seen what I knew was the man from the Ouija board a couple times in sleep paralysis, but it was absolutely sleep paralysis because I was paralyzed and I wasn't entirely sure, but I had this like, I had this idea in my mind that it was him. I felt like he was like telling me it was him. And so I'm taking this nap on the couch one day and I don't remember falling asleep, but this would go into sleep paralysis. I kind of am in the in-between state. And my hand is hanging off the couch. And then I get kind of woken up by the feeling of this cracked, like rough hand. And it was so distinct. His hand was like kind of thick, like, and I could feel the cracks in his palm and I could feel how rough it is. And he held my hand. And I remember getting so scared that I was paralyzed, and I was trying to get up and like crawl in my mind. So at this point I'm hallucinating because I am clearly kind of asleep, but I crawl to the light switch and I switch on the light and then I wake up from it. But I feel like even though that was definitely a sleep paralysis episode, the feeling of his hand like has never left me. It was so distinct and so real that I've always felt 100% like he was actually there. And then I saw him a couple more times later on and eventually he left for whatever reason. But yeah.
Well, that's good. Don't want experience.
I was just so terrified all the time. I had nothing to do with him leaving. He probably felt bad for me and was like, this girl does not know what she's doing at all. Like, whoopsie, I thought she was down with seeing ghosts, but nope. I was like, absolutely.
Turns out very scared. I'm afraid. Someone call my mom.
Yes.
Well, first of all, thank you for joining us, Amanda. This has been really, really fun.
Are we not hearing Maria's?
What?
She didn't tell her story about being touched by a ghost.
I've had too many drinks.
Robin's like, forget her. I am so sick of hearing her
Also, our cabbage having a really good, giving us really sharp memory. Maria, I want to hear
you. Yeah, Maria, what's your story, babe? Sorry.
Okay, so obviously, just like Robin, I have felt ghosts like all the time. Like it's just like the ghosts that you see for like 2 seconds, and then you can feel them on your hands, on your arms, and all that. And sometimes I also feel my clients' guides like reach out and touch me when they need to tell me something. But But the scariest one that happened, I think, last year. Yeah. I know I told the story of how my grandmother sat on the bed and I felt it, indent, and I felt like, it was a happy feeling because it's my grandma and I could feel it. But the last year, something laid on my bed on my legs and I could not move my legs, but I could move everything else. I wasn't like, going through a sleep paralysis episode. And unlike my grandma, my grandma's energy, this did not feel good. So like I was like freaking out and just like, get off, get off, get off, get off. And it like, oh no, it was there for at least 5 minutes and would not let me go.
That's so scary.
It was so heavy and my legs are fine. Like they weren't like asleep or anything. Like it wasn't feeling tingles or anything. No. But my wife hates hearing this because I don't wake her up and I don't tell her what's going on. Like
that's for the best.
I was gonna say, if I were in your wife's position, I would be okay with that.
That's for the best.
Well, okay, she's always like,
I know your wife. That's for the best.
She's always like, I want to experience something. Like I want to experience what you experience. But when she does experience what I'm experiencing, she doesn't like it. She's like, no. Mm-mm. No. Mm-mm.
Not for me, actually. I've thought about it.
But yes, that was pretty scary. Like,
poor girl.
Spooky.
Well, for real this time. Thank you for joining us, Amanda. Can you please remind our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, I am at Pretty FN Spooky on all platforms. I'm also at Amanda D. Paulson. I'm in the process of moving to my real name. That's my name. You can find me on all platforms. And also, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I have a documentary coming out this winter called Death Is With Me, and you can find that at Death Is With Me on all platforms as well.
Very exciting. And I will be linking all of this stuff in the bio. So for those of you who are like, I didn't catch that, go read the bio. That's where it is. So Maria, what's stirring your cauldron this week?
Oh, let me tell you. So I'm like so excited that like fall is finally started. Like, I don't know. I'm sick of the heat. And it's actually like, I know I usually like right now the South is in false fall, which means we'll go back to 80s and 90s like in a few weeks. But right now it's like in the 70s and it's so nice, like really nice. And so we put out all of our like Halloween stuff. And I just like, I feel so inspired to like practice more, especially after being sick for basically 2 weeks. I just want to start reading tarot again and like doing spell work. And always around the season, it's like, well, I want to do it all the time. And I'm also going to be like taking like a step back from like social media just a little bit. Like I'm not going to be like totally gone, but I'm going to prioritize like spending time with my family and doing like fall centric stuff and family rituals together and things like that. Next weekend, we're finally having our fall equinox like feast that we usually do along with like an apple family spell, which I'm really excited about. That. Thank you.
Couldn't relate though. It is 85 degrees here right now and it is 41 degrees at night and I'm like, kill me. Just kill me. Make up your mind. That is the California mountain weather, though, every year.
But then you get those pretty, like, fall colors and stuff. We don't get those until, like, November.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's fine. I suppose you have a point.
And then for us, that's when it goes back to 80s and 90s, and it'll be a nice balmy like 80s, 90s for like the winter equinox. Winter solstice. So much fun.
Yeah.
So, Robin, What is not stirring your cauldron this week?
You being sick is very sexy. Wow. I think all of our listeners can agree.
Very nasally. It's fine.
Smelly cat. Smelly cat. Honestly, listen, I'm gonna confess something, and I need everyone to not judge me. And if you do judge me, that's fine, but keep it to yourself. I don't care. Anyway, I love Ray Dunn stuff. Like, I'm secretly a Ray Dunn fan. Not all the crazy shit. I like the mugs. Just
Robin's
the mugs.
Basic.
I'm literally so basic, but only the Halloween mugs. Those are the only ones I like. Because I think they're really cute. Like, there was one this year that was like vampire blood or something like that. And like there was one that was like ectoplasm. And like those are really cute. That's funny. Like, I don't give a shit about the font or anything. Like, that's funny. I got a mug that says toxic because it made me think, like, you know how most of her stuff is like, the mug will say like mommy, and it's like a label for whoever's drinking it. Very funny to me that the mug label says toxic because it's like, I'm saying I'm toxic. I thought that was very funny. Anyway, love me some Ray Dunn on an occasion. However, it is like they listen to all the sellers this year, and like I like a good Ray Dunn mug. You know, give me 2 dozen of them, let's say. I think that's a lot. That's a good selection. That's plenty to choose from. Every fucking one of those stores I've gone into this year has been, without exaggeration, like a wall and a half of just pure Ray Dunn shit. And I'm like, no, stop it. Knock it off. Like,
we've already got what we wanted.
Not only that, but it's like, where's the rest of the Halloween stuff? It's like they just got lazy. They were like, we don't need to release any other Halloween things. We just need to release 3 aisles of nothing but Ray Dunn fucking cookie jars. Like,
so I have a, what's the word? Oh my gosh, an assumption, I guess? I don't know. Okay. Have you realized that they start putting out like Christmas stuff now, like in the middle of October? Like everything's moved and they just slowly get rid of the Halloween stuff. Yeah. I really think that they're trying to get rid of Halloween. So all these conservative stores and stuff like that, like I know Target is like, they still have like they still donate to like conservative people and stuff like that. Yeah. So they're just trying to erase Halloween.
They're trying to erase us.
It's bullshit.
You guys heard it here first.
We're not. They're gonna have to pry it from our cold dead hands.
Yeah, they literally will. They can physically fight me. And like I said, like, I am not anti-Ray Dunn. I'm not a Ray Dunn hater, okay? I'm not. I don't care if that makes me chuggy or cringe or whatever dumb thing somebody wants to say. Like, I like a Ray Dunn piece, and I'm not afraid to say it, okay? I have some very cute Ray Dunn mugs, and you can fight me. But I'm like, it literally was... You know, usually, like, when one of those stores gets a bunch of Ray Dunn shit in, right? It'll be like one of them. All of them were literally like 2 to 3, a full aisle and a half. Like, I'm talking like the big, long... I took a photo and posted one of them on my Instagram because I was so, like, bewildered by how much there was. And I just hate that. 0 out of 10. Thumbs down.
I still want their big cauldron. That's actually pretty cute.
I didn't see that.
I saw one and I should have gotten it, but I was like, am I going to use it? Probably not. And now...
Wow. You guys hear that? Maria's a Ray Dunn lover.
I am
really
not,
embarrassing.
Okay?
It's really chuggy of her. That's so embarrassing, Maria. I can't believe you just admit that. That's crazy. If you're just joining us this week, every single week we talk about creators we are loving right now. These could be photographers, artists, musicians, social media accounts, just anybody we think is pretty cool right now. Yeah, these aren't paid ads. They never will be. Anyway, Maria, who'd you find this week? What are you loving?
So I'm actually loving something that I gifted you for our anniversary.
You did. She spoiled me, guys.
I gifted her something that I want.
Really good.
But it's totally Robin style because it's all pastel pink goth. But anyways, It's the Audacity Oracle Deck, and it's just so funny and so cute.
Good.
The artwork is really pretty, and I like one of the cards is Taco. Another one's like these nuts, and
the first card I pulled when I was doing the deck was breast pumps. And it was like, and you go to like the thing to find out what it says, and it's like, what's milking you right now? What in the world is milking you? I was like, oh my god, this deck is too much.
I feel like it's like Cards Against Humanity Oracle deck.
It really is.
And I really want it. It's so funny. So, what have you been loving?
I found an embroidery artist called Fearsome Beast on Instagram. I mean, I'm sure they're elsewhere too, because it looks like they're elsewhere, but that's where I found them. And they do these like embroidered pieces that are like skull saints sort of vibe, and it's so pretty.
It is really pretty.
They sell prints, but I'm like, fuck that. I want an original.
I don't feel like the print would like have the same impact
give
as
it to me. Give me it. They're just so pretty. They're so pretty. They're so cute. I honestly expected them to cost way more than they did, or than they do. So I think I'm probably gonna buy myself one.
Even the originals
sometime in the future. Yeah, the originals are like in the $200 to $300 category, which is a lot of money, obviously. Like,
but these are works of art.
But they literally are works of art, and I was expecting them to be like $1,000. So, although yes, of course, it's still quite expensive, I can save up for that.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think people realize like how much work goes into these things.
Yeah,
it's so much work. So
much work. So the fact that it's like in a quote affordable range, to me at least, like I definitely am going to set aside money and get one because I just think they're so stunning.
Support artists.
Yes, support artists if you can. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope you will join us on Friday, October 7th for our next Coffee Talk episode, or on October 14th for our 19th episode of Season 3. You can keep an eye out on our social media to find out more information, and you can find all of those by heading to coffeeandcauldrons.com to like see all of our socials. And don't forget to join us on Patreon on October 30th for our 4 Hauntings class hosted by J. Allen Cross for library tier and up subscribers. And if you miss it, it will be available recorded for 1 month after the class.
You can even join us on Magical Beginnings Patreon. Our Patreon offers our special 25-minute part 2 episode, a huge library of articles, like so many articles about witchcraft, and has spells and all sorts of goodies. A Discord community full of fun events and discussions, like seriously an amazing community that we love very, very much.
We have 3 events happening this next month, every month actually, for all of our Discord tier members, which is great.
Yeah, we usually host a full moon, new moon, dark moon ritual, one of them, and then Robin does a meditation, and we do the classes.
Book club. And book club, which we're reading Thorn Mooney's book this month, The Witch's Path, which I'm very excited about.
I can't wait to read it. I still need to read it. It's on my bookshelf though, so I might join into this one. But we even have a tier that offers one-on-one conversations with Robin and myself.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I got sidetracked. If you are loving our sexy, sensual, just chef's kiss voices, take a moment to review us on whatever streaming service that you are, tuning in from, whether that is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or another. We love reading your reviews, and if you rate us with 5 stars, it helps us be seen by others. And thank you to everybody who already has rated us. We really appreciate it.
So again, this is Coffee and Cauldrons.
with Robin from @tiredwitch on Instagram.
And I'm Maria from @MariaTheArcane on Instagram.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
1, 2,